Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin has called on Democrats to join Republicans in investigating what he sees as a dire threat of a politicized federal law enforcement. He calls emails and texts as to what are being referred to as the Twitter files, quote, the tip of the iceberg, and insists there's a much larger story that needs to be uncovered and exposed. He goes on to use the typically politicized phrases like deep state and politicized federal law enforcement. It is the latest effort to smear the FBI, which, as a reminder, is led by a Trump-appointed Republican named Christopher Wray. Now, as I've said before on this show, I come at this from a pro-law enforcement perspective. I support our police, our sheriffs, our state troopers, our FBI, Capitol Police, unless and until there is a showing of actual wrongdoing. This most recent attack comes from the 7th batch of so-called Twitter files published on December 19th by writer Michael Schellenberger, who made clear at the very start the narrative that he was pushing, writing, quote, in Twitter files number 7, we present evidence pointing to an organized effort by representatives of the intelligence community aimed at senior executives at news and social media companies to discredit leaked information about Hunter Biden before and after it was published. Now, that sounds ominous, except when you read through the whole thing, he never actually connects the dots to prove the premise. Quote, representatives of the intelligence community seems to include people who are no longer actively working in the intelligence community. And there's a lot of talk of priming Twitter execs by sharing with them the real threat of foreign influence on social media. But nothing which specifically indicates that anyone in the FBI told Twitter, or anyone else for that matter, that the Hunter Biden story was not to be trusted. They warned of Russian disinformation before the Hunter Biden story broke. And when it came out, that story certainly was consistent with warnings they'd received. But this set of Twitter files, and it actually applies to all of the Twitter files, none of them actually prove that the FBI called the Hunter Biden story disinformation. 44 tweets later, Schellenberger writes, quote, the FBI's influence campaign may have been helped by the fact that it was paying Twitter millions of dollars for its staff time. May have been helped, could have been. The FBI paid Twitter, who then censored the Hunter Biden story. This quote from an associate of Twitter General Counsel James Baker became the supposed smoking gun. I'm happy to report we have collected $3,415,323 since October 2019. This was, of course, presented as evidence of uncovering some sort of vast conspiracy and interpreted as such by Twitter CEO Elon Musk himself. In a December 20th tweet, he said, with the government paid Twitter millions of dollars to censor info from the public. Of course, Musk chose which reporters to give access to the material and has thus far refused to release all of the texts and emails. And that's what has led Senator Johnson to call for the GOP-led investigation of the FBI for what he deems partisan use of law enforcement. And of course, the right-wing media pounced.
Recently released internal documents from Twitter show that the FBI was deeply involved in directing the tech platform.
We now have indisputable evidence that the FBI colluded with Twitter to conduct election interference.
The FBI wanted Twitter to just lie and call it a Russian hack and dump op, even though Twitter couldn't find any evidence of it. Did it matter? Of course not. The feds were on a mission to get Trump out of the White House. So they paid Twitter over $3 million to bury it.
Right. And there's a problem with all of that. It's a big one, by the way. This narrative is at the least totally misleading and more likely completely untrue. Yes, the FBI paid Twitter over $3 million. But there's no evidence it was part of a, quote, influence campaign or to censor information. The FBI was simply following the cost reimbursement law. In particular, U.S. Code 2706, which reads in part, quote, a governmental entity obtaining the contents of communications records or other information shall pay to the person or entity assembling or providing such information a fee for reimbursement for such costs as are reasonably necessary and which have been directly incurred in searching for, assembling, reproducing, or otherwise providing such information. Now, these are relatively standard investigatory requests for information, or so-called 2703D requests, which require a court order signed by a judge. Judges don't sign court orders to censor things. The FBI paying Twitter over $3 million was for standard administration requests amid real concerns of foreign election interference, which everyone on both sides of the aisle agreed happened in 2016 and which many were certainly concerned about in 2020. Senator Johnson's questioning FBI paying Twitter completely takes it out of context. And if the FBI is asking them, a private company, to do work on their behalf, they have to pay for their time, but the facts don't matter. And more to the point, they aren't even that relevant to Johnson's proposed investigation. The real point is again to attack the FBI, to score some cheap political points for extremist followers along the way. What they don't tell you is that the FBI arrested, investigated many Democrats this past year. Former Democratic Congressman T.J. Cox of California, arrested. The FBI accused him of fraud, money laundering, campaign violations. He could spend 20 years in prison. The DOJ got a guilty plea from the former head of the Louisiana Democratic Party, Karen Carter Peterson, charged with diverting thousands in campaign funds for personal use, including casino gambling. In June, former Tallahassee, Florida mayor, who later ran against Ron DeSantis for governor, Andrew Gillum, was hit with conspiracy and wire fraud charges in an investigation led by the FBI. Again, just a few examples of prominent Democrats held to account after an FBI investigation. The FBI has gone after people who they believe broke the law. But you don't hear about that because from the left, they don't want you to hear about their corruption, and the right doesn't want to obscure their narrative. But those of us who simply want to defend law enforcement across the board have to speak up. I will continue to do so on behalf of our hardworking cops and others in law enforcement who are constantly the subject of politicized attacks.